Welcome to Asher and Torah Time. We are going to start again Perek Yud Aleph, and it begins with HaMelech Shlomo Ohav Noshim Nochriyos Rabbos. And Shlomo HaMelech loved many foreign women. Ve'ez bas paroi me'aviyos amoniyos adoimiyos tzeidniyos chitiyos. These are all the names of different women that Shlomo HaMelech married. Now, B'Pashtus, in the Torah, a king has a limit of how many women he's allowed to marry. He's only allowed to marry up to 18 women. Now, the reason why Shlomo HaMelech married so many foreign women is for a few reasons. One of them is one of his strategies, how he was going to unite his kingdom, was that he made alliances. So like he married Baspara, and that's how he made peace, that he was friends with the king of Egypt. And he did the same thing with many different other nations. And he also wanted to bring other nations, and he wanted to bring them into a good place. But the problem was that there was three things that the Torah says reasons why you shouldn't do them. Like by Noshim Nochriyos, it says that you shouldn't marry a foreign woman because they might lead your heart astray. When it comes to having too many horses, the Torah says, don't take too many horses because they might bring you back to Egypt. And the same thing is that you shouldn't have too much money. But these were the three things that Shlomo HaMelech, being that he was a Chacham Michal Adam, he was extremely wise, so he figured that these three reasons are not going to apply to him. And it was by these three things that he fell through. Because ultimately when the Torah says something, even if the Torah gives a reason, there's much more to that reason. If the Torah says don't do something, it means don't do it. So the passage continues, Min Agoyim asher amar Hashem el b'nei Yisrael. They came from the nations that the Torah says, Lo yisavoyu vahem vehem lo yavoy b'chem. Don't marry them, don't go into their nations, and don't bring them into yours. Ochein, because in truth, yatu es levavchem achrei leheyem bohem dovak shloimo lehavo. And it was those notions that in truth lead you astray to other places. In those nations, Shlomo HaMelech was dovak vayehi lo noshim soros. He had 700 women who came from high prestigious nations. They were like upper class princesses. But Pelakshim he had 300. So the difference between a Pelegesh and a regular wife is that a Pelegesh is the same thing as a wife. You just don't have the obligations of a ksuba. And the other ones he did. But these women ultimately brought his heart astray. Vahilei zikna shloima, and it was when we're up to pasuk Dalet. Vahilei zikna shloima, and it was when Shlomo HaMelech was older. Noshav hitu yes levavo. These women turned his heart astray. Achrei lihim acherem, to go after foreign gods. V'lahoyu levavo sholem im Hashem lekov kilvav David aviv, and his heart wasn't complete with God like the way his father was. Now from here the Gemara learns that it doesn't actually mean that he physically worshipped other gods, because then it wouldn't say that the issue was that Lahoyu Levov Sholem, his heart wasn't complete with God. If you're over the Avodah Zarah, it's not that your heart isn't complete. You're going into the worst possible place. What it means is that he allowed his wives to build bamos, he allowed his wives to do what they wanted. The reason being because he was older, and even though when he was younger he was right that he was able to control his wives and he was able to stay on the right path, but when he got older he didn't have the strength anymore to fight with his wives, so he just let them do whatever they wanted to do. He went after the Ashtoris god of the Tzidonim, which was Shikesu Amoinim, which is the abomination of the Moinim, which is the Avodah Zarah of Moilech. So Ashtoris is like a sex goddess, and Milkoim is Moilech, which was a god where you sacrifice children to it. So these were, spiritual experiences which is taking you away from the oneness of God. And he allowed it to go on under his watch. Vayash Shlomo hara b'einei Hashem, and Shlomo did the evil in the eyes of God. He wasn't complete with Hashem the way David HaMelech was. And the Gemara says that this was a terrible barb that the pasuk says on Shlomo HaMelech, that Vayash Shlomo hara b'einei Hashem, that the pasuk wrote this for all time, that Shlomo HaMelech was also hara. Oz And it was at that time when he wasn't moichi, he let them do whatever they wanted. Yivne shloime bamo lichmoish shiketz moyov. He allowed them to build this altar for Moyov Bahar, which is in Harazeisim Asher al Pnei Yerushalayim. So imagine Asher al Pnei Yerushalayim, this is the cross where he built his Beis Hamikdash. Shlomo Melech spent 7 years to build his Beis Hamikdash. Right across on Harazeisim, they built his Bama for Avodah Zarah. Ula Moilech Shiketz Bnei Ammon. And for Moilech, he allowed them the abomination of Bnei Ammon v'chein also l'chol noshav anochrios maktiros u'mezapchos le'loyayim. And he allowed them to build these bomos, and they were bringing all these foreign sacrifices. Pasuk Tes. Vayis'anaf Hashem b'Shlomo. God was upset at Shlomo ki noto levovim im Hashem elokei Yisrael, that his heart strayed from the God of Israel anir elaf pamoyim. And this was the big complaint against Shlomo, that Hashem said, you experienced me. Twice I revealed myself to you. How could it be that you had such an extreme experience? Most people, you can say, I never experienced God, so what do you want from me? But Shlomo Melech did experience God. How is it possible that you allowed, under your watch, that there should be an official system in place which is taking people away from me? Therefore, Tzivo Elav and V'tziva Elav al hadavar hazeh. And when I revealed myself to you, I told you about this specifically. Levilti leches achri limachedem v'leishamar it asher tiva Hashem. I warned you that you shouldn't go after other gods. How can it be that you allowed that to happen? Vayomer Hashem l'Shlomo. So Shlomo got a message from Achi Asheloni, and here's where we get the prophet Achi Asheloni. He comes in and he told him, Yana asher ha'oisa zoi simach, because you allowed this to happen, and you knew that you're transgressing my commandments, I am going to take away, I'm going to rip away the kingdom from you, and I'm going to give him to Yedravam ben Nevat. But because it's not that you sinned yourself, but you allowed it to happen under your watch, therefore, I'm not going to take it away while you're alive. I'm going to let you finish off ruling until you die. It's because of your father David, but from your children, it's going to be taken away. I'm not going to take away the entire kingship. Shevet Echad, one Shevet, which is Shevet Yehuda and includes Binyamin, because Yehuda and Binyamin are a pair. Yehuda was the one who saved Binyamin. Eten Livnecha, that's going to stay in your lineage, Avdi, because of your father David, and because of Jerusalem, and because of Yerushalayim and the Beis Hamikdash, there's always going to remain something from your lineage that's going to have at least 2 Shvatim. And now the Pasuk is going to describe how did it actually come down? What was the series of events that caused Shlomo Melech to lose it? So this is a very interesting story. Vayokem Hashem Satan l'Shlomo. He put an adversary, a Satan, who antagonized Shlomo, who is Hadadu Adoimi. There was a fellow whose name was Hadadu Adoimi. What's the story with Hadadu Adoimi? He was Mezer HaMelech, who be'Edom. He was one of the Edomite children. Now what happened was that when he was a child, Vahi biyois David es Edom ba'alis Yoav Saratzava. What happened was that David HaMelech sent Yoav to fight against Edom. And the Gemara says that he was fighting against Amalek, and Yoav went and he killed out Kol Zachar. He killed out every single male from Edom. When he came back to David HaMelech asked him, "Did you kill out everybody from Amalek?" He said, "What do you mean everybody?" It says, he says, "Timche es Zachar Amalek." Timche, you should destroy as Zachar Amalek. What does Zachar Amalek mean? All the males from Amalek. And David HaMelech said, what do you mean? What do you mean Zachar? It says Zecher Amalek. You should erase the memory of Amalek. Everybody from Amalek. And it says that Yoav was very upset at how his teacher taught him that Zachar and not Zecher. I guess Zachar means a male and Zecher means a memory. So if you were taught and there was no Nekudas, right, you had to have a Masoda on how you actually had to read the words. So he changed history, so he was very upset. And we don't know if he actually, or it could be that he killed his Rebbe, or he threatened that he was going to kill him. But the point is that that's how, that was a story. So David HaMelech sent him back. David HaMelech sent him back to go bury all of the dead. Now you have to understand that in the ancient world, when you killed somebody, you were out on a battlefield, you left them there to rot. You kill them. You know how hard it is to bury people? You have to understand there's no tractor that comes and digs out a pit and you bury people. You have to actually come there with spades and shovels. You had to, right. It was a huge process. And David HaMelech, because he had, he honored the Tzelem Melachim, he honored just humanity, just the basic Tzuras Ha'odam, he sent back his soldiers to go bury the dead from his enemy. So he sent them back l'kaver es hachalolim. Vayach kol zocher be'edom. Ki sheishes chedoshim yoshav sham yoya v'chol Yisrael ad yichris kol zocher be'edom. See, it says kol zocher be'edom. He spent there 6 months until he killed out every single zocher be'edom. Vayivrech Hadad. So Hadad is a little child, and he's a refugee, and he escapes. Hu v'anoshim adoimiyeh ma'avdei oviv itoy lovei mitzrayim v'Hadad narkot. Hadad was a little child. And the problem was that Hadad, he's like heir to the royal throne. Vayakumu mimidyan. So they ran away to Midian. Vayavoyu Paran. He's going from place to place like a refugee. Vayikhu anoshim imam miparan. Vayavoyu Mitzrayim el Paroi melech Mitzrayim. And he comes to Egypt, el Paroi melech Mitzrayim. Vayiten loy bayis velechem amaloi ve'eretz nasan loy. So Paroi sees this little kid coming to town. He's obviously coming from an important place, so he takes him in to the royal palace. Paroi took a liking to Hadad. He didn't just give him a wife, he gives him his sister-in-law, his wife's sister. So now Achois Tachpanes, which is his wife, gives birth to Genuvas Benoy, to a son named Genuvas. Vatigmeleu, Tachpanes v'soich beis Paroi. Now Tachpanes made it in and he integrated into beis Paroi. V'hi Genuvas beis Paroi b'toich b'nei Paroi. So this Genuvas is growing up in the royal court, and he's just integrated. He's part of society. So he actually became enmeshed in the upper echelons of Egyptian society. V'hadad shama b'Mitzrayim ki shochav David m'avoso v'chimes Yoav sar hatzava. So Hadad is now part and parcel of Egyptian society. He made it. He has, like we said before, he has property, he has a wife, he has a child in the palace, he has power, and he hears that Kishochav David Mavoisav v'chimes Yoav sar hatzava, that David HaMelech died, and that Yoav died. So here you have a story where somebody carries a grudge for many years, and he hears that David died and that Yoav died, and he says, I am going to go back and take revenge. Now, think about it. If Hadad would have went for a little therapy, he could have sat by somebody and the guy would have asked him, tell me, what did it take in order to bring you to the place where you're today? Is life good for you today? Yes. You have a good wife? Gewalt. Are you in a place of power? For sure. Do you have property? Yes. Do you have power? Do you have everything that a human being could want in life? 100%. How did you get to this place? I only got to this place because I went through when I was a child as a refugee. And he would have connected the dots. He would have been able to be extremely grateful for everything he went through. But he's a dat. He's a Molech. He comes from Edom. But he's
David's kid.
Not David, he's Edom's kid. He was a little child. He was a little child when David HaMelech made a military campaign in his region, and he ran away as a refugee. He ran away to Egypt. So now, Now he wants to take revenge for something that happened when he was a child. He has childhood trauma, doesn't have a good therapist. Now he has to take care of his grudge and give away everything that he has now. He's giving away the good life. He's not connecting the dots. So Paro tells Hadad, what are you lacking by me? You have everything. Is there anything missing? Why do you want to go to your land? Isn't everything good for you here? And that's always the response of somebody who's carrying grudges. It's not like you can explain logically and say, yeah, I have everything good, but I want to throw it away because it doesn't sell. It's not, it's not a good pitch. Nobody's going to buy it. But within yourself, you just have to resolve that grudge. So he says, Vayomer, Hadad tells Paro, Loi, no, I'm not missing anything. But just send me. Just send me. Because at the end game, I have unfinished business. But he doesn't explain to him why. He asks him a question. He says, is there anything lacking? And he doesn't say, yes. No, he says, no, I have everything. But I am still going to go back. And that's what happens. It's just a story about, this is just how it comes down. So he goes, Vayokem alei Kim loy Satan. Second, now we're just giving you the setup. So Hashem gives another adversary. He was as Rezoin ben Elyodo. Now Rezoin ben Elyodo, he was Asher Borach me'ez Hadadezer melech Tzoi v'Adoinov. So he was somebody who ran away from Hadadezer. He was actually somebody who David HaMelech helped. Vayikboitz olav hanoshim. Vahi sar gedud b'haroik David oisom. So when David killed Hadadezer melech Tzoi, he gathered people around him. That means David killed his enemy. He was running away from Hadadezer melech Tzoi, but once Hadadezer was killed out by David, he made himself like a little band. So he crowned himself, he became like a regional king of sorts. So this Rezon was an adversary against Shlomo all of his days. So so these two pair up together, and he was king over Aram. And he did whatever he could, but he couldn't do anything when Shlomo Melech was alive. So this is the second guy, and now there's the third pawn over here who's going to end up coming out against Shlomo Melech, and this was the worst one from the three, was Yeravam ben Nevat Efrasi. Now Yeravam ben Nevat is a big tzaddik, and he's a big Talmid Chacham, and he comes from Shevet Ephraim, and he was min Atzireida, V'shem imo Tziruya, Ish Almana, Eved Shlomo. He was a servant of Shlomo, Vayarim Yad B'Melech, and he lifted his hand against the king. What does it mean he lifted his hand? It doesn't physically mean he lifted his hand. It means that he gave Mussar to the king. There was two things that he gave Mussar to. It's machlokes which one, but the point is, one of them was that he came late when Shlomo Melech made the Chanukah Sabayis for the Mishkan, for the Beis Hamikdash. The second one, which is what the pasuk is talking about, is that here's the thing which he chastised the king and he gave him Mussar. That means he was brave enough to confront the king and hold him accountable. Because Shlomo Bono as Hamiloi, there was this open space which was next to Yerushalayim, which David HaMelech made when people were Oile Rogel. There was this huge square. Now Shlomo took that square and he built on it houses for the servants for Bas Paro. That means he took away that square. Sagaras Peretz Ir David Aviv. Now David HaMelech also opened up huge openings in the wall that people were able to pour into the city. But here he went and he closed it off and he made that everybody should have to go through certain narrow gates in order that you should be able to collect the taxes. So Yeravam gave him Mussar that, your father was here for Eretz Yisrael, for Yerushalayim, and here you're here for your own personal, you're taking away the milui for Bas Paro, and you're setting it up to take taxes. The problem was that he did it b'rabim. That means even though he was right to give him Mussar, but you have to know that Mussar never works when you're doing it in public. Definitely not when you're going to humiliate somebody. So even though sometimes you have to hold people accountable and you have to confront them, you have to know how to do it, and you have to do it with the right intention. But regardless, because he had the guts to stand up and do it, he put himself in a position where he was roi to be in a leadership position. He was a warrior. He saw that Yeravam is good. He put him in charge to collecting the tax from Beis Yosef. Now that we know that the reason why Yeravam was, stood up to Shlomo, so now Yeravam, here's how the story is coming down, how Shlomo Melech is being set up to have an opposition. Yeravam meets Yeravam, Hanavi Baderech, Achia Shaloni Hanavi Baderech, and Achia Shaloni was wearing a new cloak, wearing a new beged. Ushneim levadim b'soda, and they were two alone in the field. And the fact that they were alone in the field, either it means that they were learning together and they were sharing secrets of Torah, but that means they were both on a very high level. And at that time and at that place, he was in a very good zone. Vayispois Achia b'salma chadosha asher olav. So Achia took the new salma, he took this new cloak. Vayikroeo shneim asa kiroyim. He tore it into 12 strips. Either it means he tore it into 12 tiers, and then there was 13 strips, or he tore it into 12 pieces. It's always a question if there's 13 shvatim or 12 shvatim, if you count 2 shvatim together. And Achia tells Yeravam, the Navi tells Yeravam, Kach lecha asara karoyim. Take these 10 tiers, these 10 pieces, Ki choyam ar Hashem Elokei Yisrael, Hineni kureyas hamamlocha me'at Shlomo v'nasati lecho es asara shvatim. Morgen. Take Hine Kureyas HaMamlachim Yat Shlomo was ripped from Shlomo v'nasati lecha es asara shvatim. This is very reminiscent of David HaMelech tearing. He tore the cloak of Shaul, right? And then you had Shmuel HaNavi tore the cloak from Shaul, and now Shlomo is having, metaphorically, the melucha is being torn. But Shevet Yehuda and Benjamin is going to remain yours. Leman Avdi David Leman Yerushalayim Ha'ira Shebacharti Bo Mikol Shefti Yisrael. One of the things that's like coming out to me again and again here in Navi, very frightening, is that everybody in Navi has an experience with God, where God appears themselves, and He tells them very clearly what's going to be, and they know exactly what's expected of them by that experience. But then later on, suddenly it's like Shlomo HaMelech, we just said, God revealed Himself to me. He had an experience of the divine, something that most people don't ever have, and he had that experience. And then situations come up later, and you think you're smarter, and it slips away. And the same thing happens, with Shaul. Shaul also was misnaba. He also had prophetic experiences, and he still wasn't. And the same thing is happening here with Yeravam. That Yeravam himself, he's in a place of leadership. Achia Shaloni is he knows why it's being taken away from Shlomo HaMelech, and he's holding Shlomo accountable for what he's doing. And at the end, we're going to see how Yeravam, if Shlomo HaMelech messed up, Yeravam messes up 1,000 times more. Even though he has the Navi and he's seeing it's mamish from Hashem. That means that the fact that you had an experience of the divine doesn't mean you're going to be good for the rest of your life. It means you're still responsible and you're still accountable, and you're still going to be nisyonis, and you're still going to have to work hard to stay connected and to do the work, even when you're uninspired. At the end game, it's when you're uninspired, and that's when the issues come up. Yana asher azavuni. You know why, he says? Because Shlomo wasn't, because he left me. Asher azavuni vayishtachvu le'ashtaros le'geit sidonim lichmoy shalehem orav Ule Milkam leheven ei Amon, v'le hochu b'darkei b'drachei lashes ha'yasher b'eina v'chul koisei mishpatai ke David Aviv. He tells Yeravam, this is the reason why it's being removed from Shlomo. And then Yeravam is going to screw things up 10 times over. But I'm not going to take away the whole kingship. Ki nasi ashisenu kol yimei chayov. L'man David Avdi asher becharti yoisai asher shoma al mitzvoisai v'chukoisai. V'lakachti ha-melucha miyad benoi. I'm going to take it, the melucha, from his child, from his boy, which is going to be the Chavam and the Satir Lecha, Eis Aseret Ashvatim, and I'm going to give you the 10 tribes. V'livnoyat and Shevet Echad l'man hayos need l'David Avdi kol hayamim l'fonei b'Yerushalayim. In order that they should remain from David, it was a promise to David, I'm going to keep that alive. Ha'ida asher becharti li losum shemisham. V'oischa ekach, and you I'm going to take, u'malachta b'chayil asher taiva nafshecha, and you're going to rule. Really, it means like means if you're going to rule over yourself, you're going to control your own taivas. That's when you're going to be a king, which means he's warning him. He says it's being taken away from Shlomo for this and this reason. If you're going to rule over your own desires, then you'll be able to keep the melucha. And you'll go in my ways. Lishmechu koisei mitzvoisek asher asa David Avdi v'hoyisi imach uvanisi l'cho bayis nemon. If you'll go with me, I'm going to build you a bayis nemon. Kasher banisi leDavid. He's giving him the same promise that he offered for David. He says, if you're going to go with me, you're going to come along on the ride, I'll set you up. And the Sati l'cho es Yisrael, I'll give you the nation I'll give you Klal Yisrael for a V'ana zera David. And I'm going to take away from them the melucha. Leman zois, because of this reason, because Shlomo Melech left me. Ach lo kol hayomim, but I'm not going to take it away from him forever. But like Rashi says, when Mashiach comes, that's when I'm going to return it. So now, after Yeravam is getting the prophecy that he's going to get part of at least the bulk of the kingdom. Shlomo wants to kill Yeravam because he was a Mechiach HaSamelech, he was a Moed B'Malchus. He chastised the king in public. Vayakam Yeravam, so Yeravam gets up, Vayivrach Mitzrayim al Shishak Melech Mitzrayim. He runs away to Mitzrayim, to Shishak Melech Mitzrayim. And here you have something very strange. That Shlomo Melech took horses from Egypt, and he made an alliance with Egypt that he married Bas Parah because he wanted Egypt to protect him. He wanted Egypt to, at the end of the game, Hadad and Yeravam, who raises Hadad and who protects Yeravam, Mitzrayim. It's almost like a reverse story of Moshe Rabbeinu. Parah wants to kill the Jews. So where's Mashiach Shel Yisrael? Where does Moshe Rabbeinu get raised? Where? In Mitzrayim, in Beis Parah. So here you have an opposite story. Shlomo Melech doesn't listen to the words where God says, don't marry out, don't take horses from Mitzrayim, don't make an alliance with them. So the alliance is what ends up raising his opposition and protecting his opposition. It's mamish like an opposite story of the other side of Mashiach Shel Yisrael. V'yakim Yerav vayivrach Mitzrayim al Shishak melech Mitzrayim v'hi b'Mitzrayim ad Moshe Shlomo. So he stays in Mitzrayim until Shlomo Melech was nifted. V'yeser divrei Shlomo v'chol asher asa v'chachmosoi. Now here's an amazing part. Even though Shlomo Melech, in the end of the story, we're telling you everything he messed up, but we don't forget that he was an amazing great king, that he was wise, and for 40 years he kept the Melucha going. And Vayeser divrei Shlomo v'chol asher asa v'chachmos Elohim ksuvim al sefer divrei Shlomo. It's written in the sefer divrei Shlomo. We have Koheles, we have Mishlei. Vayom asher Melech Shlomo Yerushalayim al kol Yisrael. Was at Boim Shana 40 years that there was quiet, peace and quiet. Vayishkav Shlomo Mavoisov. his soul went up to heaven, and whenever it says Vayishkav Shlomo, it's a lashon of tzaddikim. Vayikaveh b'ir David Aviv, and he was laid to rest in the city of David. Vayimloch Rechavam b'noi tachtov, and his son Rechavam took over after him. Chan.